Who was Freud? Sigmund Freud was an Austrian doctor who at the end of the 19th century began developing human psychological functioning. He was born in 1856 and died in 1939. Often regarded as the godfather of psychoanalysis, he has shaped a lot of modern Western psychology. The theory of psychodynamic psychology was developed by Freud. The key concepts of psychodynamic theory are the id, ego, and superego, the unconscious, psychosexual life stages, childhood experience, transference, defense mechanisms, dreams, free association. Today, we will be looking at the psychosexual life stages. So I should point out, Freud believed we all go through psychosexual development stages. During each stage, the individual's energy, he also regarded it as libido, is focused on a part of the body that is relevant to the developmental stage. This theory described how personality is developed over the course of childhood and adulthood. Freud's theory argued that if a child's needs are appropriately met at each stage, they will develop a healthy personality. However, if there is conflict or an unsatisfactory experience in these life stages, the individual will get stuck at a stage and doesn't move on.
Freud's 5 stages of psychosexual development. Stage 1, oral, from birth to 12 months old. In this stage, Freud believed a child's main sexual source of joy, energy or libido was solely related to things they did with their mouth, so eating, sucking, chewing, etc., and primarily by being breastfed. If this stage wasn't happy or successful, a potential for conflict or mouth-related fixations would develop in later life. He said that if a child had a healthy experience of breastfeeding, that they would grow up and develop to be a happy child and a confident adult. If this experience wasn't happy, i.e. they were weaned off too early, not fed when hungry, or force-fed when they weren't hungry, that would lead to issues with dependency in relationships and an oral fixation and mouth-related addictions in later life. For example, obsessively chewing gum, eating too much, smoking too much, and even a supposedly unhealthy preference to kissing and oral sex over bog standard intercourse. Freud's 5 stages of psychosexual development. Stage 2, anal, from 12 months to 3 years old. In this stage, Freud believed the child's main source of pleasure, energy or libido was solely related to pooing and learning to control this. And if this stage wasn't happy or successful, a potential for conflict or control-related fixations would develop in later life. He said that if a child had a healthy experience around this, then they would grow and develop to have good relationships with self-control and authority. And if this experience wasn't happy, for example, they were made to feel shamed about messing themselves or had to try and stop themselves from going for long periods of time, that could lead to becoming anally retentive in adult life, i.e. over-controlling and stingy, or anally expulsive, which would make them inconsiderate and disorganised, in addition to being disgusted at their own bodies and having issues with authority. Freud's 5 stages of psychosexual development. Stage 3, phallic, from 3 years old to 6 years old. In this stage, Freud believed the child becomes aware of their sexual organs and controversially says masturbation is a source of pleasure. Yep, at 3 to 6 years old. He believed there were various potential conflicts at this stage that could lead to different sexual-related fixations in later life. For example, he believed boys started to compete for their mother's attention with their father and effectively became sexually attracted to them, that they may fantasize about getting rid of their father to have their mother all for themselves. This is known as the Oedipus complex. It would mean they become fearful that their father could harm them, even leading to castration anxiety, i.e. his father cutting off his favourite toy, his penis. If this stage is handled correctly by the father and they're present at this time, a bond will form, the rivalry will subside, the issues will in time resolve, and they'll learn from their father how to be a man and an adult who respects both genders. If this isn't handled correctly and the father isn't present at the time and fails to develop a strong bond, the boy won't develop a strong sense of manhood. They'll be unsure of their own sexuality and they'll be condemned to a life of competing with other men. In girls, he believed at this stage they developed penis envy and wished to be boys, that they saw the penis as key to power and domination in the household and wanted one for themselves. He believed girls developed an electrocomplex and desired their fathers and resented their mothers, who were apparently responsible for their own castration. If this stage is handled correctly with both parents being present, the girl will suppress her resentment towards the female competition, i.e. her mother, and begin to identify with her and learn motherly skills, housekeeping, etc. Not my words. And one day, successfully snag a man of her own. Woohoo! Freud believed that if this stage wasn't handled correctly, the girls would continue to have penis envy for the rest of their life and grow up feeling inferior to men. It should also be mentioned that Freud believed females never truly overcome this stage, and penis envy does indeed stay with them anyway. Freud's 5 stages of psychosexual development. Stage 4, latent or latency stage, from ages 7 to 13. In this stage, Freud believed a child's libido is suppressed as they develop life skills, form egos, have hobbies, bond with friends of the same sex, and have same-sex idols. He believed there was no conflict or potential for fixations in this stage, and that both boys and girls would benefit from their life experiences in this stage. Freud's 5 stages of psychosexual development. Stage 5, the last stage, genital, 14 plus, also charmingly known as puberty till death. In this stage, Freud believed the libido truly becomes awakened and active. Both male and female become interested in sexual partners and start to experiment with healthy heterosexual sex. He believed that if you experience life without trauma and weren't held up in conflicts from previous stages or related fixations, you would go on to develop strong relationships and a fulfilled sex life. He believed a child with problematic libido in early stages or with fixations could become weak, not develop a strong ego, unable to develop healthy relationships, and ultimately suppress their sexual desires, which could lead to perversions such as homosexuality. As in previous stages, his theories are largely focused on males.
I will be critiquing Freud's psychosexual stage theory. So, firstly, Freud's theory attempts to explain but does not predict behaviour, making it not scientifically proven. It cannot be tested or measured and is based upon case studies and not empirical research. Nonetheless, due to his credibility as a scientist, him being a man, him being a white man, all of this stuff strengthened and justified a lot of his theories in the 19th century. Secondly, the theory focuses almost entirely on male development with little mention of female psychosexual development. The third phase, the phallic phase, could be said to be the most controversial phase, especially if you were talking to a feminist theorist, as it states that females develop penis envy and resentment toward the mother for not providing her with the penis, and the theory goes on to say that the divergence between the male and female psychosexual growth occurs when children become conscious of their biological difference in their genitalia, and thus that's when the Oedipus complex emerges. The misogynistic overtones in this complex act as a justification to depict women as an inferior, passive kind of bystander in development. Thirdly, the theory's reference to sexual desire in children so young is at the very least questionable. Questions that arose for me is, when is sexual desire developed and to what extent is it developed? And then fourthly, these case studies were had with white upper class women. So again, it does a huge disservice to being reflective of society and thus the human condition. Also, I was thinking a lot about individuals who are intersex, that is someone who is born with sex variations or variations in their sex characteristics. So they may have both male and female genitalia, and of course no research was done in those individuals. So again, it's not reflective of society. Also, the theory is primarily focused on heterosexual development and ignores homosexual queer development. The theory suggests heterosexual preferences represent the normal outcome of development and kind of others the homosexual experience by representing it as a deviation of this process. In this day and age, that would be homophobic. And but I think, Freud's lens was influenced by the society he was in, which was a white heteronormative 19th century middle class European society. And that is all I have on the criticisms for the 5-stage psychosexual theory. Do you have any questions for us?